Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Last week we had come up to second chapter, text 66. Many of you were not here. So who can, in a few sentences, summarize what is Bhagavad Gita up to this point? What is Bhagavad Gita?
In first chapter, Arjuna put his questions, and he has basically categorized as 5 doubts. He mentioned those 5 doubts. Because of that, he was not willing to go forward with the 5. And then from second chapter, 11th verse, Krishna starts speaking. And first Krishna gave him the knowledge of the Jnana Yoga, which is Sankhya Yoga. which basically deals with the difference between body and soul. So Krishna speaks from 2011 to 30th about the Gyan Yoga, and then Krishna told him about the Karma Kanda section from 31 to 38, and then Krishna speak about the Nishkam Karma Yoga from 39, and then Arjuna had question in the 54 where he was a bit confused uh, about the Nishkam Karma Yoga, and I mean he was confused about the doing activity while renouncing the uh, benefits of it.
Not exactly that.
You know,
But you are, of course, you're correct in what you say. But important thing is that the battle was arranged at Kurukshetra, and Arjuna was put into a dilemma that it was his duty to fight, and Krishna was urging him to fight. But after seeing the opposing warriors, who were his relatives, friends, his guru and grandfather, he became overwhelmed with feelings of compassion for them, and he didn't want to fight. He became so overwhelmed that his bow was slipping from his hand, he was crying, and so many other symptoms. Skin was burning, his mouth was drying up. He couldn't fight due to his emotional reaction. But it was his duty to fight, so he was in a dilemma. So that's the first thing. Then, as you said, Arjuna didn't want to fight, so he posed arguments. Why he didn't want to fight. But then, what's most important is that in text 7, Arjuna admits that he's very confused. He says, "Now I am confused and I have lost all composure. I am confused about my duty and I've lost all composure. I'm totally upset. So in this condition, I am surrendering to you, Krishna, and becoming your disciple. Now, you please instruct me." So this, everyone should think over for their own self. That the material world is so constructed that everyone is put into perplexity. And although we may try by so many means to get out of our difficulties, ultimately we cannot get out. So those who are fortunate, or those who are wise, to try and get out of life's difficulties, they approach Krishna, or Krishna's representative, the spiritual master. Otherwise, one just simply dies without solving the problems of life. So, everyone must feel that life is full of difficulties and it's very confusing what to do, and one must become upset about understanding one's condition in this world, and then what to do. Now you may say, well, some people are very successful. They have no problems because they have maybe a lot of success, a lot of fame, a lot of money, or whatever. But the answer to that is what? The answer to that is that they're still old, invalid, and die. It's not that just because they have a lot of money, success, fame, or influence, that therefore they have gotten out of the complexities and difficulties of material existence. Big problem is old age and then death. That is the big problem. So anyway, Arjuna, he understood that Krishna is a higher authority. Ultimately, he will understand Krishna is God. So he's confused. He knows he cannot solve his own problems. If one is intelligent, one will also understand, I have so many problems, I cannot solve my own problems. Especially the problem of old age and death, and then where am I going? So Arjuna submitted to Krishna, and the first thing Krishna did was what? After Arjuna surrendered to Krishna, then what did Krishna do? He chastised Arjuna. You've been talking so many things like a learned scholar, but actually those who are actually learned, they never lament for the condition of the body, whether living or dead. And then Krishna began to explain that actually we are all eternal. Of course, you have your birthday, and you'll have your death day, but that only refers to the body. It's not you. Krishna will explain in many different angles, so many different ways that actually you are not the body, but somehow you have become embodied. And so death just means that the outer covering of the body is destroyed, but you, the conscious self, you are never destroyed. So we must keep in mind that Arjuna was in difficulty. And then he surrendered to Krishna, but Krishna's not going to give him some temporary relief from his problem. Just like suppose you have a problem, you have a medical problem, you go to a doctor, he gives some medicine, then your problem is solved. But all of your problems are not solved. Again, there will be another problem, another problem, another problem. So Krishna is not just going to arrange things in such a way that this problem of Arjuna is solved, whether to fight or not to fight. He's going to explain to Arjuna the solution to all problems. And the hint is, of course, that Krishna first speaks that you are not the body, that for the self or the soul, there is no birth and death. So, afterwards, in text 39, Krishna says, so now I've explained what is called Sankhya, the analytical study of what is the body, what is the self. Now I'm going to talk about yoga, complete yoga, he says. The process or means by which you can get free from karma bandhana, or sinful reactions, or the reactions to one's work, reactions to karma. We must understand that BhagavadGita is beginning at a certain platform of understanding, which, by today's standards, is an elevated platform. In other words, some things were already understood and taken for granted. And one of those things is that Arjuna knew that when you perform an activity, there's going to be a result or a reaction for that activity. One of his arguments was that if I kill all these people, especially my superiors, my grandfather and my guru, this will be a great sin, and I will have to suffer in hell. surely. So Krishna explains that by the practice of yoga, first he calls it buddhi yoga, that karma bandham prahasasi, you can get freed from the reactions of work. Of course, this we don't understand, but the Shastra explains, how did I receive this body? How did you receive this body? You received it as a result of your previous karma. This is explained in another literature called Srimad Bhagavatam. Karmana Daivanetrina Jantur Devo Apade. That according to one's previous work, under superior supervision, one is placed into the womb of his next mother to develop a particular type of body. That's the explanation. You have Indian body, I have American body, someone has female body, someone has male body, someone has deformed body, someone has very strong body, somebody has dog body, somebody has mosquito body. What is the explanation? So, Arjuna very well understood, and this is already assumed, that our material situation is continuing due to karma. The material situation can be ended by becoming freed from all karma. And the process to become free from karma, Krishna indicates, is yoga. That the practice of yoga frees one from all reactions to work. So, text 51, I'll just read again. And it must be mentioned here that technically, in the Sanskrit, the word in this verse is buddhi yoga, buddhi yukta. And Srila Prabhupada translates more, that actually yoga means bhakti yoga. Complete yoga is bhakti yoga. And other forms of yoga are partial understandings and practices of the complete yoga. So just keep this in mind. They're all in the middle of a battlefield. And Krishna wants Arjuna to fight. And Arjuna is overwhelmed by compassion. He feels he cannot fight. And Krishna speaking BhagavadGita in the most simple way, he is speaking BhagavadGita to convince Arjuna to fight. So that we will see that although there are many processes described and many procedures and so many characteristics of these procedures, that actually the essence of it all is that Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead, the supreme authority, and he's telling the subordinate living entity Arjuna, fight. Arjuna doesn't want to fight. In other words, doing what God says, that's actually bhakti bhakti yoga, but that is actually what is called dharma, or religion. It is said, dharma tu sakshat bhagavad pranita. What is religion? Simple definition. Religion is that which is ordered by God. That is religion. So Krishna ordered Arjuna to fight. Arjuna saying, no, I cannot fight, I will not fight. So he has gone against his natural argument. And as we will gradually learn, and as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very essentially said, who are we actually? Who are you? Who am I? Who are we? Of course, Krishna says, I am not, you are not the body, but that which we are Krishna's eternal servant. That is our nature. So Arjuna, he didn't want to fight. At the end, he agrees to fight, and that is bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion, or the yoga of loving service to the Lord. And what Krishna wants, we do, and then that is the perfection of yoga. So in text 51, it is said, by thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead. So what BhagavadGita is actually presenting to us is the solution to all problems by getting free from material entanglement. As pure living soul, living entity, we are by nature anandamaya, or full of bliss without any miseries. It is only contact with matter that causes all kinds of miseries and suffering. So the solution to all kinds of miseries is to free oneself from material entanglement, which entails the cycle of repeated birth and death, birth and death, birth, death, and go to the pure state, the state of liberation. And the process by which one can attain that is called yoga. So I'll just read the verses, some which we read yesterday and some new ones, that will complete this chapter and speak briefly about it, starting with 52. When your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of illusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard. So it will be explained later in the 8th chapter that it is the mind which is the central point of yoga practice, because it is the mind which carries us to our next body. So the mind absorbed in matter will take us to another material birth. The mind that is absorbed in transcendence will free us from material entanglement. So the yogi, he first and foremost, he must put his mind in the transcendental position, not absorb his mind in the dualities of material existence or the ordinary bodily course of affairs. So that's why it is saying that when your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of delusion, means when your intelligence can understand that this material life is useless, better I just forget about all this and the light of transcendence, then you become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard. All this passion, all this politician, all this war, this, that, these all come and go, always be there. No use, actually. When your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, when it remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, then you will have attained the divine consciousness. So, Srila Prabhupada has pointed out that actually in BhagavadGita, every word is full of meaning. You can never come to an end of study of BhagavadGita. It is said that Prabhupada's spiritual master, he once lectured on the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam and only that verse for 3 months. So what does it mean here, the flowery language of the Vedas? We talked about this before, you know?
I mean, Vedas deal with the other subject matter also, like heavenly planets, going to the heavenly planets and other benedictions, mukti and all different. So these are flowery words of Vedas.
Yes. Krishna is going to tell Arjuna that don't try for any position within the material sphere, go beyond. So within the material sphere there are higher and lower positions. It's like in this world, some people are highly placed, some are very lowly placed. So according to Bhagavad Gita, there are higher planets also, and lower planets. So much of the Vedas talks about going to a higher plane of material existence. Krishna will discourage this, because even you go to the highest plane in the material world, still there's birth and death, and you have to come back. So the flowery words are the promises given in the Vedas that you can go to higher material existence. There's heavenly enjoyment. Just like a flower is very attractive. So these words are very attractive for materialistic existence. So it says when your mind is no longer disturbed by these flowery promises of heavenly enjoyment, which is also temporary, and when it remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, then we'll attain the divine consciousness. So this is, again, second chapter is like a summary, the contents of the Gita summarized. It's not getting down yet to the serious, systematic talk, it's just a little bit of that. But here the idea is that there is a divine consciousness, which is different from the consciousness of work hard, get money, and enjoy the body. That's not divine consciousness. So we will see ultimately that divine consciousness is God consciousness, or Krishna consciousness. So then Arjuna is curious. Krishna is suggesting that all your problems, they will be solved if you can come to this platform of divine consciousness by the practice of yoga. So Arjuna said, "Oh Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak and what is his language? How does he sit and how does he walk?" The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Oh Partha, Arjuna, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness." Generally, the mind is engaged in thinking of ways to enjoy the mind and the body. So So Krishna is first of all saying that the symptom of someone who is situated in transcendence is that he has given up all of these desires. This is a negative description. So as I pointed out, we were fortunate that we saw the living practical example of Srila Prabhupada. You may imagine that how can somebody exist that their mind is absorbed in a transcendental state so they don't care about any bodily gratification or mental gratification or any material arrangement. But Srila Prabhupada actually exhibited such a consciousness, such a life, and that is what attracted his disciples to him. They saw him, and then there's a video of Prabhupada was just beginning ISKCON in New York in 1966. And few students were coming just a couple of weeks, and somebody interviewed them. And one prominent disciple said that Swamiji, which means Prabhupada, he has something, I want to get that. He has some quality, some wonderful presence, some wonderful detachment from all of this, some wonderful situation on a higher platform that I also want to get this. So here it is said that when the mind finds satisfaction in the self alone, then such a person is said to be pure transcendental consciousness. One who is not disturbed in mind even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind. So Krishna, in the beginning, he explained to Arjuna that this body is not you. The death of the body will not mean the end of you, or not actually have any effect on you. So Arjuna put a question that, okay, I understand this theoretically, but you mean to say that the death of someone, I will not feel something? I will not feel stir. So Krishna said, of course you will feel, but you must tolerate. So here it is said that one who is a highly advanced yogi, devotee, even when there's a material calamity, such as the death in the family, he is not disturbed in mind because he knows the spiritual situation, and he knows that on the material platform, these calamities, they always come and go. It's the nature of material life. In the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. So this is describing a person who is self-realized, can understand that the body is not the self, who enjoys within himself a spiritual relationship with the Supreme Spirit, or Krishna. And for such a person who is very strongly immersed in that relationship, then anything that happens on the bodily or material platform is insignificant. So, on the other hand, those who are in the bodily conception of life, who think the body is the self, who think that material life is all in all, of course they're very much affected. They get money, they're overjoyed. If they lose money, they're devastated. or if they lose a loved one, they're devastated. But just as Krishna described, the self or soul cannot be burnt, cannot be dried, withered, or moistened. It is unchanging. But even if a nuclear bomb were to drop on someone's head, self would not actually be destroyed or changed. So one who is in transcendental consciousness, he is also unchanged, even by the upheavals of this material world. Of course, this is very advanced consciousness. We are very beginning. But still, we must appreciate what the goal is. We have to see the goal so that we can know where to aim ourselves. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense object as the tortoise draws its limbs within the shell is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. So here's the example of the turtle or the tortoise. When there's danger, he withdraws his head and his legs within a shell for protection. And then when he wants, he brings them out. So the example is that we have our senses. There's 5 knowledge of 5 senses. Eyes, nose, ears, tongue, and touch. And there's 5 working senses. So those in material life are called bodhasa. Go means senses and dasa means servant. That in material life we are servant of the senses, servant of the mind and senses. In the stomach, it's complaining, then we must serve the stomach. When the genitals are pushing, then we must serve them. When the mind is absorbed in something, and as determined, I must have this, then we must go and work hard to get it. But one who is a transcendentally situated yogi, he is called Goswami, a master of the senses. That's why the example of the tortoise is given here. He controls his senses. He doesn't let his senses control him. We see in the lives of great devotees, there are many devotees that they would not even think of eating. If they got food, they would eat. And if they got no food, even for days, they would fast. And for eating, they might just eat a few fried chickpeas or some other thing, just to maintain the body. So these are masters of the senses, even though the senses may dictate, go here, I want to see that, I want to hear that, I want to do so many things. Master of the senses. He utilizes the senses only for the service of Krishna. You see, this is what Krishna wants Arjuna, to be the master of the senses. Now is the time to fight. I am ordering you to fight. Use your senses under my direction and fight. Don't be the master of don't be the servant of your mind and senses. Oh, I cannot kill them, no, this, that, and then become overwhelmed. 59. Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains, but ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. So we're going to see throughout that yoga system means withdrawing the senses from the sense objects, especially for personal gratification. So how would this be possible? Here it is said that Because we'll see, especially in the beginning of the next chapter, Arjuna will think, well, it seems like you're telling me that I can withdraw myself and just sit and do nothing and practice some kind of meditation and not let my mind and senses go to anything. So, but at the same time, you're asking me to fight, so I don't understand what you really want. So here it is explained that if one simply tries to give up material sensual engagements and sit in meditation, that even though temporarily he may restrict his senses, still within, the taste for sense gratification will remain. One will sit in meditation and simply think about different kinds of enjoyment. But if one gets a higher taste, then he can give up. So what that higher taste is, that will be gradually explained. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind, even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. So generally, yoga is described as take your senses away from material sense objects and fix your senses on God. But here it says the senses are so strong, they forcibly carry away your mind. An example Prabhupada gave many times is there was a great yogi, Vishwamitra, and he was engaged in meditation. He was born in Kshatriya, but he wanted to be accepted as a Brahmana. He wanted to be a Brahmarshi. So he was engaged in meditation. Got once heavenly Apsara, most beautiful girl of heaven, Meenakshi, came before him to disturb him just by hearing the tinkle of her ankle bells. And when he saw her, his mind immediately went, and then he had relations with her. So here it is said the senses are so strong and impetuous that they forcibly carry away the mind, even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. Then Krishna says, one who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. So this we will have to learn gradually, but the essential idea is that the senses are attracted to that which is beautiful. But the form of Krishna is the most beautiful, and the qualities of Krishna are the most attractive, and the pastimes of Krishna are the most captivating. The devotees of Krishna are the most wonderful persons also. So gradually, if one advances in Krishna consciousness, then he will see the value of withdrawing his senses from material engagements. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. So it's described by Prabhupada the essential, most essential material attachment is the attachment between male and female, man and woman in the world. So here is a step-by-step description of the result of material attachment. There was previously a painting to illustrate this. It's in the earlier edition of BhagavadGita. It's not here now. It says that while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. Boy maybe going to college, he sees some very attractive girl. So while contemplating her, he develops attachment. Or he falls in love with her. Then from attachment, lust develops. I must have. Without her, I cannot live. Many times we hear like that. You may feel like that also. There are songs like that. And then when that lust is not fulfilled, there's anger. I gave the example last week that sometimes it happens in India that a boy will love a girl, but that girl will not accept that boy. So his lust is frustrated, he becomes angry. He throws acid in her face. So it's not happen. Then, of course, we all know the results of anger. When one becomes angry, then all intelligence, memory is finished. Prabhu gives the example that he once saw that two brothers, they got in an argument and then the anger increased. One brother killed the other brother. You don't have to sit here. So we're almost at the end anyway. So from anger comes bewilderment of memory. Brother even forgot. This is my brother and he killed him. But a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. One who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Therefore, Almighty God, one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-control, and the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective stage. So this verse basically means that for the materialists, what is their daytime or what is their interest? So many things. For the yogi, for the introspective stage, it's like night, no interest. And what is of interest for the introspective stage, what Krishna is teaching in BhagavadGita, for the materialist, is night have no interest in that. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. So here's another very good analogy. So many oceans enter the ocean, so many rivers enter the ocean, but the ocean is very vast. It is not disturbed or doesn't overflow, even though so many rivers enter. In the same way, the mind of a transcendentalist, even there may be many disturbances or material desires enter, but he remains undisturbed. Whereas the person who tries to satisfy every desire, of course, he is disturbed. person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship, and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. That is the way of the spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated, even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. So we'll talk more about these next week. Are there any questions?
Chapter 65, volume 6. Oh, sorry. It's 65, the four mysteries of what are the three?
That we talked about last week. I was saying that the Vedic literature is so nice that things which we could never understand can be understood so perfectly by Vedic literature. Suppose you went to university, even to the philosophy professor, and you said, well, there's so many miseries. There's these wars, there's the Jesus, there's this, that. Could you categorize these miseries in any way? What would you say? No. But here it is said threefold miseries. These are adhyatmika klesha, adhibhautika klesha, and adhivaitika klesha. We have miseries of our body. Kidney stone is giving me great pain, heart attack, toothache. These are adhyatmika klesha. Mysteries of the body. There's also mysteries of the mind. Somebody giving me trouble, this is disturbing my mind. Class is so boring, my mind is disturbed. Then there's adhibhautika klesha, mysteries from other living beings. My boss is giving me trouble, my wife is giving me trouble, my son is giving me trouble, mosquitoes giving me trouble. And then there's natural disasters, so hot, so cold, the earthquake. These are actually controlled by the devas, so it's called adhivaitika klesha. And that way, all the mysteries are put into the three classes. Any other questions? Yeah.
There are sometimes drawings.
There are sometimes drawings. Someone claims that God told them to. So obviously very different. People, for someone who not understand how to approach that
I can
confusion of saying,
repeat better about this is a lot of echo.
How does one clarify between verbs? Saying, God being and the activity of is intelligent. It still is.
Well, everything has its symptoms. Of course, Arjuna was present, Krishna was telling. You could ask anyone around, they would all agree that Krishna saw Arjuna kill. But if someone goes in the court and says, God told me, then what's the evidence that God told me? So, if he's such a great person that God told him to fight, then maybe he could bring God to support him in the court. There's the story in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita about Shakshi Gopal deity in India, the two Brahmins, a wealthy older Brahmin and a young poor Brahmin. They went together on a tour all over India. And the older Brahmin was very satisfied by the service rendered by the poor Brahmin. He said, I will give my daughter to you in marriage. And the younger Brahmin objected. What are you talking about? You're from a very aristocratic family, and I'm from a poor family. Your wife, your relatives will never allow this. And such. He said, no, I want to do this. My daughter, I can do as I like. So he insisted, so finally the younger Brahmin said, because they were in a temple where there's a deity, he said, make this promise in front of the deity. So the old Brahmin said, Deity, I promise to give my daughter in marriage to the young Brahmin. And the young Brahmin said, my dear Lord, Gopal, he has made the promise. Now later on, if I need a witness to back me up, you must come and testify on my behalf. That if someone knows the truth but doesn't tell it, then they become implicated in the crime. So they went back to their village, and there was a lot of family pressure. The old Brahmin couldn't give his daughter. The young Brahmin went back to the top of the temple, and he said, please become the witness. And he said, okay, I'll become the witness. And he said, Deity said, you just walk and I'll walk behind you, but never look back. And cook 1 kilo of rice every day. Never look back. As soon as you look back, I'll remain in that place. Then he our first deity said, well, how can I go there? How can I go to this distant place? You ever heard of a deity walking? And the Brahmin said, well, you ever heard of a deity talking? You're talking, and you can also walk. And he said, okay, walk, don't turn back. So when he came to the village, then he turned back and saw Gopal deity fixed and brought all the villagers, and the deity said, yes. So back and back, this older Brahmin promised his daughter. So the person said, God told me to do it. Then back it up. Bring God there to say, yes, I told you to do it. Otherwise, get off his head. Yes.
Is it the same soul that carries through all the forms of
Soul means you. It's like, suppose you went to sleep one night, and you woke up the next morning and you saw you have a woman's body. Still, you would be the same person, the same conscious person, just you'd see that your dress or body has changed. So, now you're developing a certain mentality at the time of death, in the mind that you cannot remain in the body anymore, don't hear you develop your next body. It's like you plant a seed. Plant the seed of a mango, or even a smaller seed is a banyan tree. Seed may be so small that actually all of the information of what kind of tree, what kind of food, and everything is already there in the seed. Similarly, everything about your next body is already there in the seed form in your mind, in your subtle body, and when you enter the mother's womb,